co jest tłumaczone jest przetłumaczone ze Sustainable Development, a tutaj mamy Sustainability, które samo w sobie jest w ogóle po prostu terminem, który występuje w języku angielskim i tak więc najpierw trochę o tym, czym w zasadzie, co to znaczy i czym to jest. Tutaj mamy z naszych ulubionych.
Another really big thing is that the demand for food is growing, and also that most of the planet by 2050 will be 25 and younger. So we really need to go after youth and get youth to be innovative and understand that they can also grow their own food and show them and pass down to our posterity something that is really valuable. Some other challenges that we have here, of course, I would pick the two off of here that are resource degradation, so our resources are limited, and also competition for these scarce resources such as water and energy, but also we have climate change happening. So, you know, the climate change is going to wipe out a lot of the opportunities for old farming, and we will have to adapt and become new farmers. So right now, the opportunities in present that we have is that we're having agricultural renaissance. Ag tech is leading the way. So ag tech is really helping us do a lot of things through urban farming, bringing local growth closer to us, being able to grow anytime, anywhere, by anyone. Automation, even robots can now grow our food. We can grow it using less resources, such as less water, space, time, energy, and have a higher yield because we have software like monitoring and management and hardware like growing vertically using all of our space and greenhouses.
Basically, there used to be farms all over Manhattan. Now there no longer are, and we can see this with cities across the globe as they've developed. As cities have gotten more advanced, as they've gotten more expensive, we've said that agriculture isn't valuable in the urban context. And we've said that we're going to push agriculture somewhere else and centralize it in what is arguably a more efficient way to grow in some cases, but has consequences because we lose our connection to the food system, we increase food miles, and we also increase the risk as a response to climate change. So let's look at some case studies that are really interesting that demonstrate this problem. So Sydney is really fascinating. Sydney is a city we featured on our podcast, Locally Grown In, which is about urban agriculture in different cities, and it was our first episode. And so 20% of the food consumed in Sydney is grown locally already. And I think that's really high relative to other cities. Melbourne has a very high number as well, but 20% is quite high. So that means 20% of the food consumed is grown within 100 miles of Sydney. But as you can see here, based on the trajectory of urban development, that's going to go down to 6% by 2031. So that's an economic loss, meaning that those farms no longer have their property. There's no longer food production happening. There's no longer jobs in that sector. Sure, they're going to be replaced with housing and real estate, but from a resiliency perspective, that's a big risk. What if the food that we are moving towards, importing towards Sydney in the future starts to be at risk or the prices go up? We've now lost that resilience. Furthermore, it's important that cities do have some kind of knowledge around food production in the face of climate change. That's being lost. What's encouraging is that if Sydney were to get a strategic plan in place for protecting its food system, even with the growth and development of the city and the population growth, 14% of that food production could still exist. 14% could still be local. So, there's an opportunity for cities to actually respond to this and show leadership and protect their food systems, even in the face of rapid development.
Let's get practical. Take a look at the system. So there's lots of vertical systems and options out there. Most of the times the large farms are starting to build rack systems. It introduces a lot of challenges. For a certain height you need scissor lifts, microclimate management is going to be difficult, and you need to use electricity to light every level. So that's why I wanted to provide a different kind of shape. And the idea behind it is that I was imagining vertical cylinders which have a certain diameter to maximize the number of grow spaces possible in your three-dimensional room. But the big idea is you can use one or multiple of those units. but they are all based on repeatable Lego pieces. And these Lego pieces come in different shapes. Basically, there's a completely closed one with no grow space, there's one which has a center grow space, and there's one piece with 2 grow spaces. And by assembling these ones in an exchangeable way, you can configure your vertical cylinder in terms of plant spacing and the shape of your plant. And depending on how many ring segments you stack on the thing, you can define how high it is. So again, if you use one or you use multiple, you have lots of grow spaces, maximize number of grow spaces in a 3-dimensional room. Everything is movable and we can use natural sunlight. So this was a really important step for me to have this alternative to the smaller towers out there and to introduce lots of flexibility. Once you understand it's just building blocks, you can come up with your own idea how to actually use it in your special case. You can hang the thing, you can put it on the ground, you can use an external reservoir, you can use it with substrate. And once you understand, oh, it's just building blocks, I can build whatever I like. Yes, do it. And